Experience the most efficient system for delivering sulfur and phosphate to meet your crop's needs with Smart Nutrition MAP plus MST.
Bernard Tobin here, back at the Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa. I'm over at ADM now, catching up with Chris Meyer from ADM Farm Direct Fertilizer. Chris, how's it going? How's the show?
So far has been awesome. A lot of people coming through. Definitely a lot of questions on fertilizer for sure. But yeah, so far so good.
Now, Chris, I want to talk about some of those questions you're getting from farmers, and I'm sure a lot of them are about, how they can navigate a down commodity market, and some sticky and stubborn, input prices. But before we get there, hey, tell us a little about Farm Direct Fertilizer and, how you work with growers.
Sure. So ADM has been in the fertilizer business for 20 some odd years. And about 8 years ago, they started to go to a Farm Direct model. As growers have gotten bigger, more complex, they've been looking to, go into the market and source their own products and kind of control that price a little bit. And so ADM gladly kind of stepped into that marketplace and made sure that growers have that opportunity to do so.
Awesome. Now let's dig into the market here. I mean, your perception right now where we are, where is the fertilizer market?
Yeah, so if we look at potash, potash has actually probably been at one of the most affordable levels it's been at in quite a long time. Seems to be ample supply, and it's really kind of a decent price to the growers this year, which is kind of a little different. If we go to phosphates, the United States has a little problem because we've got some countervailing duties that have made it difficult for us to source nitrogen from many places in the world. The Canadian market doesn't have those tariffs, but in general, those prices have come down from the years past too.
Yeah. Now, a big part of this, conversation is the commodity markets, the farm economy. How do those two run into each other? Corn and soybean prices and fertilizer prices right now.
Right. So it's definitely a conversation piece we've been having a lot more with growers because in certain situations, the numbers don't work well with where the corn price is at. And so it's really one of those things where growers got to know, what their fertility levels are, where they can sell their crop at, and what makes the most sense as far as if you're going to cut back, what does that do to the crop in general when you come to the end? And you want to make sure that you maximize the yields that you can get and maximize that return on what you are going to put in there.
Yeah, and so much of that is actually knowing what you got in the ground from a fertilizer perspective, right? And then finding that key point of where profitability meets yield, right?
Right, and it's, I've got a lot of folks that have done a good job of fertilizing in the years past. And so with the lower prices, that's what they're thinking. They're, hey, I'm going to cut back a little bit. Things that might throw that off a little is if they have, there's some areas that have really good crops this year. And with those good crops, of course, they're taking off more nutrient than they probably have in the past. So you've got to analyze that and kind of figure out what's my right replacement rate and how much do I feel comfortable knowing that's, what levels are in my ground.
Yeah. Hey, you're talking to a lot of farmers, you say, how are those conversations these days? We're looking into fall, we're looking into some harvest, difficult situations. What are they saying to you? What are they asking you from an advice perspective?
Yeah, I think it's, a lot of it's just where we think prices are going, especially by spring. And it makes it a little challenging because today when we've got pricing where it's at, again, potash isn't too bad. Phosphates, guys are a little weary on it. And then they're watching the markets kind of, I don't want to say fall apart, but they're going the wrong direction for most growers. And so it's just really, they just need to figure out where the break-evens are for next year and what makes sense and where to optimize their money that they're going to spend.
Yeah. Hey, final point on strategy, and that is, you book for 12 months here is your window. How do you tell farmers, to look at that window right now? I mean, maybe a little tough to lock in early here.
Yeah, so, earlier in the summer we had some opportunities, we think, to lock in phosphates and potash going into this fall. So far they look like those are pretty good choices. Going into next spring, it's really tough. When we talk nitrogen, a lot of the guys are telling me that number doesn't make sense where it's at today. I'm just going to kind of sit on my hands and wait. And quite frankly, I think a lot of folks are going to wait on phosphates and potash as well. Again, part of it is in a higher interest environment too. They don't want to have the cash outlay, on the farm and pay the interest on that money. If we don't think prices are going to dramatically go up, they'll just sit back and wait for those opportunities to come forth.
Anything else in the mix that we should be talking about?
I think you just make sure that if you're dealing with any ADM folks at all, make sure you keep talking to them. look at our program if you haven't looked at it before. I think there's great opportunities with it, and it's one of those things where growers can finally be in the driver's seat on making those fertilizer buying decisions.
So Chris, hey, some great perspectives. Appreciate you making some time for Real Agriculture here at the Farm Progress Show.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.